This is an update of my 5.3 carbureted engine that I put in a 1997 GMC Sierra. This truck was a 4.3 V6, and I removed that motor and I put this stock 5.3. It has a very mild cam on it with the 500 lift. It is my daily driver. I built it back in 2017, July of 2017. It's February 18th, so I've been using it for over 6 months now. And I just installed my air conditioning system back on. And if you're interested in building the carbed 5.3 and just getting your old body style going again with a decent motor, I'm going to give you some tips on what to do. I had a hard time on a few things, such as getting the stock 4L60E to work with the carb motor, but me and my cousin figured out how to do that. And here, I'll tell you what I did. This bracket right here, I got it off a LS1 truck. If you look on their website and you search OBS AC bracket, his name will come up, and you can get with him and he can sell you one of these brackets, and you can mount your original AC compressor. Since this truck was originally a V6, my compressor and everything was actually back over here, so I did have to extend this wire right here. I extended this wire, and I also extended this wire. This wire you won't need to extend it. And this bracket fit with these coils. I don't know what coils these came off of, but these are it right here. Looks like the round ones. The bracket fit right on there. And now I have air conditioning. I live here in Houston, Texas, so I try to get the air conditioning back on in January, because it's about to get hot. It's already, the cold is not existent right now, and I'm just preparing myself for 100-degree weather like it normally is every year. And so I got my air conditioning in, and basically it's the same setup. I did have to buy the V8 manifold, C1500 V8 manifold, and because, like I said, the compressor's back here and it uses a smaller hose on this side, so you do need to use a V8 manifold if you have the bigger motor in it. I mean, there's so many things that worked well on the swap, and so many things that I did have to customize. I used an LS1 1998 through 2002 temperature sensor off a Camaro LS1, and it was able to work directly with my temperature gauge, which I thought was great. My power steering, if you use the 99 and up power steering hose, it's actually bent in a way where you can reuse it. And just plug it back into your power system inlet. And I tried to use the original, but it was I could have, but I would have had to bend it a lot more. And I tried this one and it worked, so I just left it on there. But they both can be used. What else? I got my oil catch can right here. I got this on eBay for about $30. It works well. That way there's no oil getting back into the carb intake or inside the carburetor. And I ended up putting my alternator on that side, because I did not want to rewire. Originally the V8s and the V6s, come with the alternator on this side. So this wire right here, I just had a plug and play. This is the original alternator off of the V6. I didn't need to change it for anything. This is a special bracket off of Goat Built. I bought the bracket for about $80, and you can buy a tensioner pulley from them, or they'll tell you which one to use. And this came off a Jeep Cherokee. It's off a 2000, I believe it's a 98 through 2004 Jeep Wrangler, but it looks like this. You can distinguish them because there's only one that looks like this one right here. And I'm using 2 fuel regulators, and I only had about a month to get the build done, so I didn't have any help. I really didn't have any much time to get the bed off and put my fuel pump back in there, 255 or a low PSI one, because this is carbed. All I need is 6 PSI. And what I ended up using is the central port injection system on these trucks, which is really bad. I just used that fuel pump pushes about 40 to 45 PSI. I used a quick fuel regulator, and this dropped it back to 9. And then this one right here, I bought this at AutoZone. This regulator brought it back to 6 PSI. So that's what you need for a carburetor, for a Holley at least. Let me show you what I got in here. It's a 580 HR quick fuel. And I tuned the motor myself. I will encourage you to get an AFR gauge to tune it, because that way you won't have to pull your spark plugs or anything like that. AFR will tell you exactly what it's doing. And I put it on one side of the exhaust, and just make sure when you do the jets on this side, you know, you do them equally. That way you can get the same AFR. But I ended up just using the original accelerator cable, and this was a Spectre cable bracket. Just plugged it back in. I had to flip the carburetor around. My primary's on this side. They're supposed to be on this side. I called Quick Fuel and asked them if there's going to be a problem. They said no, so no big deal. And here's my cable right here. I was just using an electrical lug nut. Just squeeze it together. I had to cut this piece right here, but other than that, it works. It works good. If you go carbureted, please get some kind of polymer or wooden spacer, because your fuel will boil. Your fuel will boil if you don't have it, and there will not be any fuel in the fuel bowls. Like right now, I have some fuel in the fuel bowls. I don't know if you can see it, but that's because it doesn't burn off or evaporate anymore once I put that spacer in. That's I believe that's a 1/2 inch spacer, maybe a 1/4 inch, and that'll work. Just remember that whenever if you're using it on a 96 OBS, if you're putting the carb motor on a 96 through 2000 fuel injection system on the Chevrolet truck, this is the MSD I'm using, you will need to plug in your RPM signal that comes from this module back to the crank signal, and that's what's going to let your transmission shift properly, exactly the way, like if it was stock. And for it to, like if you accelerate really fast or quickly, you need this throttle position to drop down your gear. That's your throttle position sensor. And luckily Holley had one that just goes right on to your Holley carb, which is amazing, on the chokehold. And you can go that route. But I'm gonna make a part 2 and give you some more information.